Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cinema Recall podcast. I have special guest Robert Yaniz Jr. of franchise Detours, A Close Watch. And now, here is our theme song. This podcast may contain adult language, adult situations, spoilers, and some brief nudity, so parental guidance is suggested.
We have such sights to show you.
After about 5 minutes of this movie, you're gonna wish you had 10 beers.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
So, what would you little maniacs like to do first?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Oh, well. La-di-da, la-di-da, la-la, yeah.
Welcome back to the Cinema Recall podcast. Hello, everyone out there, and welcome to the Cinema Recall podcast. I am the Vern. Thank you so much for watching, listening, maybe doing both. I don't know, but I thank you so very much for checking out this latest episode. Our special guest this week is the host of franchise Detours, A Close Watch, owner of crickettable.com. We have with us Robert Yaniz Jr. Hello, Robert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Vern. I appreciate it.
This is so cool. I've been loving your different franchises you take on. You recently have covered the Naked Gun trilogy, and you did all the Rocky movies, The Evil Dead. I was on your show talking about Muppets Take Manhattan for your whole Muppets series that you did a while back.
That's right.
Great fun. And I'm having you on today's show because you just got done covering all the Before series with Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. And I've been loving those shows so much because it's one of my favorite trilogies. But I'm talking over you, Robert. Please tell our listeners everything about your show and how you got started with podcasting.
So like you said, I run Crooked Table Productions, and we have Close Watch. We get to know our guests through the movies they love. Lately, we've been on a little bit of a movie musical kind of path where we did the first Wicked, we did Fiddler on the Roof, we did Moulin Rouge and Grease and a bunch of other ones. And then franchise Detours, where we believe no movie series travels in a straight line. Both of those shows, the Close Watch was originally Crooked Table Podcast. And then in 2021, I rebranded the whole thing. I retitled the Crooked Table Podcast. I made it more guest-centric. And then Franchise Detours really kind of came out of initially doing this sort of monthly deep dives on what was once the Crooked Table Podcast. We did Star Wars one year. We did Harry Potter the next. And then I was finally like, you know what? I really like covering franchises. I think that, ever since I was a kid, having that continuing story, having this grand kind of production where you follow characters over a period of time, whether it's Star Wars or Back to the Future or Lord of the Rings, I think has always been something that's really appealed to me. And doing the Before Trilogy was so interesting because those are movies I saw the first two like in my 20s, and I was like, okay, this is cool, but I didn't quite connect to it yet. And then now rewatching the three of them, I watched them a few years ago with my wife. And then now I'm a decade into, over a decade into marriage. We have 2 kids, and I'm watching this whole franchise. I'm like, this is so interesting and so insightful what those 3 movies have to say about like the nature of relationships and how our perspective changes over time and all of that. So it's really been so rewarding to be able to go back and watch these almost 20 years of exploring the relationship between Jesse and Celine over the course of, I recorded them probably within a couple weeks. So that's been so interesting. Like really speaking of perspective, it's really condensed that whole thing down.
Yeah, because like on your episodes too, each of those movies take place like 9 years in of each other.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
You're right. Your attitudes and your opinions change when you watch them for like the first time from like the year's perspective. And even for people who just watch the films for like the first time, it feels like a different type of perspective too. But even more so if you kind of grew up with those movies as well. And I've been really enjoying them. Your guests have just been really amazing stuff. And yeah, it's been excellent. I will post links in the show notes where you can go and listen in. Check out those episodes. Check out the other franchise. Your close watch ones, those are episodes that I will dive into more later on there too. So
Yeah.
very cool indeed. Well, before we get into our movie, which you saw the link, it's Way to Life. That's right. I do something I do every show. It's called Rage Corner. Rage Corner brought to you by the great folks over the Film Rage podcast. This is part of the show where we can rage happily or rage angrily about anything going on in the entertainment industry. And my guest, Robert, do you have anything you want to rage about?
You know, I was thinking about this in preparing for this episode, and there's a lot of negative things I can go off on, but I feel like mine is sort of a glimmer of hope wrapped in a complaint.
Okay.
I feel like so often the last few years, I think with the pandemic, every time a big movie comes out and underperforms, everybody loses their minds. Is cinema dead? And you see all these doom and gloom and all these like apocalyptic headlines. You're like, oh, movie theaters, are they even going to exist in 10 years and all of that stuff? And then you see in the last couple of years, things like Oppenheimer, things like Barbie, things like Sinners this year.
Yeah.
I think there's honestly, even a Minecraft movie, which say what you will about the movie, that is a movie that knew its audience, knew what it was trying to do, came out, and it just goes to show you, if you make something that people want to see, that resonates with them, they will come out to see it, and they will lose their shit in the movie theaters every time the chicken jockey shows up. Even also the other example that I thought of too is the failure of Snow White, and they were like, oh, even these things are not doing well anymore. And then the success of Lilo and Stitch.
Yes.
So it's just like, it's not that people don't want to see these characters, these stories. They're not behind Disney's storytelling anymore. It's the fact that nobody, teens, 20-somethings nowadays, they don't care about Snow White. They grew up with Lilo and Stitch. They grew up with Minecraft.
Yep.
So you're seeing the big IP, like the Marvel movies, are like now starting to struggle a little bit more. The movies like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, again, young people, that they don't have that character doesn't have the same cachet for them that it did for us, for our generation. And so you're seeing just the focus and the interest of the audience shift in a different direction. Not better or worse, just different. And I feel like everybody is just all up in arms with the way that the industry the movies are performing the way that they expect them to, the way that they, air quote, used to. And yet we're in a different world, different consumers, a different generation who are different and interested in different types of stories, different types of characters. And where you're now competing against all the streaming services, not just not just premium cable, like 20 years ago when HBO was really popping off, but like 8 different streaming services that are all getting exclusive content. So rather than complain, oh, people aren't going to see the movies we think they should be going to see, how about rethinking the business model? How about dropping ticket prices? How about that's where I think it makes sense, where companies like AMC and Regal are doing the subscription. They're doing the A-list. You're like, hey, if you're really into this, you will pay a subscription because then you can come and see it. So I think there's a lot more thinking and a lot more creativity that has to be involved in order to sort of adjust to the expanded entertainment landscape. But everybody just goes straight to, oh, they're not going to see this. What's happening? I'm like, it's a little bit deeper. Like, maybe how about be a little more proactive and kind of meet consumers where they live instead of just making the same old crap and then being surprised why no one wants to see it anymore.
Yeah, that is a really good point, Robert. Yeah, it's all about with their marketing, their movies too. And you made a great point about Lilo and Stitch because kids knew that movie. It's that first one came out early 2000s, I believe.
2002.
2002. So they grew up with it. So a lot of those kids who are kids, they're now older now. Like, I still can't use the fact that I've got nephews now who are graduating from high school and becoming college kids because they were little kids back at that time. And I don't believe that cinema is dead. I know people make that claim all the time based on movies or ticket sales, but with the Barbenheimer happening, and also other movies. You said it right there, the Minecraft. They actually had like special screenings for the Minecraft audience because
Yes, they
Minecraft
did.
audiences got to be like wild. Instead of going, we gotta stop that. Warner Brothers like, why don't we just make the whole theater just for
Yeah.
the wild kids in theaters? And so just doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that also, like, a couple years ago, people were like, "Oh, nobody cares about musicals," and then Wicked came out and made what, $800 million worldwide or something, and they were doing a similar sort of thing. All right, let's have sing along screenings. You know, we don't want to just bother other people in the theater, but now you're designated, come in and sing along to the movie, and even that, like, yes, it's riffing on the Wizard of Oz as IP. But it's also a different version of something that hasn't been done before. It's not another sequel or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, good point. And
So,
yeah, it made like a lot of money, and I still think there's a strong market, a lot for those like independent type of like features as well, and
yeah.
they can play for a certain audience. I don't. There hasn't been much of like midnight showings where I'm at. I'm hoping that starts to come back more. I know they
Mm,
were stopping that because of COVID, but I think that's going to come back later on. So
yeah, it'd be
that's a
great.
good rage right there. My rage has something connected to yours a little bit there. It's positive, but negative in a way, but still positive. All right, because I believe in hope
Constructive
for people.
feedback.
Well, my thing that I want people to be just excited about movies again. Like I
Yeah.
don't. Okay, here's what I'm trying to say here. Whenever a movie goes into like production, it gets talked about right away without the movie actually coming out. Like people being excited that, hey, they're gonna make a movie about this, and hey, did you hear this person got cast in this? And then there seems to be this whole firestorm happening. Like I've been seeing all online, people kind of like losing their shit or being happy and excited about a Legend of Zelda movie coming out with
Yeah.
actor Hunter Schafer being Zelda, and people try to lose their shit, and I'm like, nothing has happened yet. We don't know if she got cast for sure. It's just rumors. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say about the whole rumors about movies coming out. Like, hey, I heard this movie's in production. Because if I scroll through Facebook, I'll see that a bunch of times. Like, hey, the cast of Goonies are getting together to do a reunion of Goonies. And I'm like, they're just talking right now. I don't know for sure if they signed any contracts that it's being made. I don't know if this Legend of Zelda movie is going to be coming out or not. And I just
Right.
kind of missed the days where we waited until we got like a one sheet poster. Like, I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember, but when Batman came out in '89 and all we had was just that poster of the bat symbol,
Mm-hmm.
that is all we really had to know that a movie's coming out. But now with the advent of the internet, I kind of feel like people post so many things about movies being in production that has not actually happened yet. And we
Yeah.
just get so excited about, hey, this person could be attached to this movie, and oh, we got this director here. Oh, this director haven't fallen out. It kind of reminds me of before, like when they made Batman, and like Darren Aronofsky was to be in the Batman movie.
All right.
And then you had oh gosh, I'm blanking right now, but I think the oh gosh, the guy who made Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, Edgar Wright.
Yeah, Edgar Wright was going to be directing Ant-Man, or all these people did
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, nothing has actually come out yet. And should we at least wait till we at least get like a trailer before you start losing your shit? Like right now, people are losing their shit over like a quick like 30-second clip of the new Superman movie, the James Gunn Superman movie, where he's flying, and people are like doing all these like videos trying to like pinpoint why the animation's so weird there. But like, guys, can we just wait till stuff comes out first instead of just doing all your it's like you're judging a movie before anything comes out yet. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. All the influencers are trying to like out hot take each other. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we got to respond to this one image or this one. Yeah, it's gotten a little out of control. It's part of why I didn't believe that there was a sequel to Beetlejuice until I was in the theater watching Beetlejuice, because it was like 30 years of, oh, this fan made poster. Is it really happening? Maybe, who knows? On the flip side of that, I will say though, that an exception to this sort of toxic, over scrutinizing fan culture would be like the Sonic the Hedgehog thing. That's like one of the only examples where I'm like, all right, that design was terrible and y'all saved that movie. That franchise, that wouldn't have happened if it had been that original design. That's like the only instance where I was like, okay, you might have been onto something.
That's true. And I'm grateful for that because that early Sonic was in that Chip and Dale's movie that came out to Disney Plus, which I absolutely loved.
That's really fun. Yeah, that was a really fun movie.
That was I gotta rewatch that one. I forgot how good that was.
Yeah.
Well, as always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe to all of our shows on your favorite podcast platform. I see all of our shows like we have more than one. It's just Cinema Recall. But yes, but please like this on your favorite podcast app and subscribe. Leave us a comment there. Right now, I'm going to be playing a quick little ad spot from another podcast show, and then we'll be right back on our episode.
We got to take a short break, but Cinema Recall will be right back after these ad spots.
I was having serious problems in the bedroom, and in the car, and on the bus. But I couldn't help but think there had to be something out there for people suffering just like me.
Podcast dysfunction affects 6 out of 7 cinema geeks out there, but there is help. The Simplistic Reviews podcast, a show where Matthew Stewart, DJ Valentine, and Justin Polizzi talk movies, TV, and all other forms of pop culture and entertainment.
Symptoms of the Simplistic Reviews podcast may include loss of sleep, loss of hair, longer erections, lost family get-together, bleeding of eyes, ears, and anus, divorce, hated by townfolk, rash, the ability to drink alcohol and podcast at the same time, being called a cocksucker, loser, mansplaining, weight gain, weight loss, people with steer podcasting games, depression, happiness, growth of boobs and hair on chest, constant peeing, watery eyes, and 3 additional inches on your penis. And if you don't have a penis, you will now. The Simplistic Reviews podcast. Ask your doctor today.
Thanks to the Simplistic Reviews podcast, I'm no longer bored in the bedroom. Plus, I have a perpetual erection. Although I think I'm going blind.
The Simplistic Reviews podcast. A small price to pay for entertainment.
Get access to episodes early, uncut video footage, and bonus shows by becoming a Patreon member. Go to patreon.com/Cinema Recall Pod, and for just $3 a month, you will help support our independent podcast. Thank you so much, and now back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cinema Recall podcast. I am Vern. I'm here with Robert from Cricket Table Productions. The movie we're discussing today is the 2001 feature Wait in Life, directed by Richard Linklater. And I am going to read the back of the DVD I have here, just for like a small little like plot description, because this movie is difficult to really kind of like pinpoint and explain. So here's what it says in the back of the DVD here. All right, let me get my glasses for it here. All right. From the director of Slacker and Dazed and Confused comes one of the most imaginative animated features ever made. This funny, ingenious film, which Premiere Magazine called a must-see, explores the fascinating question: are we sleepwalking through our waking state, or wake-walking through our dreams? Join Wiley Wilkins as he searches for answers to life's most important questions in a world that may or may not be reality. Robert, tell me, when did you first watch this movie?
Today.
For
this podcast. I had never seen this before, but this had been one that had always been sort of on my periphery because of the Before Trilogy connection, especially.
Yeah, because all right, so this movie, and I had to pull up his filmography when I was looking up these movies. This one kind of like came right before. I gotta pull this up here again now because I had my Richard Linklater like I know this came out like right after he did. Hold on here, I gotta pull this up here because his whole
His
list.
filmography is, and that's something we got into on my episodes on the Before Trilogy. His filmography is all over the place, like as far as style and genre, just like the versatility that he has is so incredible.
Because I know right around he made this movie, he did a movie called Tape with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, also shot digitally. And then I think it was before this, he was doing like the Newton Boys and Slacker and Dazed and Confused. And this movie always feels like a spiritual sequel to Slacker. Sort of like how Everybody Wants Some is a spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. And the whole crux of this movie is Wally Wiggins' character either having a conversation with or just mainly observing all these different people having conversations about a different topics of philosophy and existentialism. And I think I remember seeing this in theaters, and what I appreciated about this movie, and I know some people find it kind of annoying, and I want to get your take on this too, Robert, is that you don't really get a plot element into the movie until almost near the end of it.
Right.
Because
is that a plot development? What are we? It kind of focuses in on its central question, I guess. On like he has something that he's trying to accomplish, I guess.
Well, because in the movie, Wally Wiggins, gets off a bus or a train, kind of the same way too that Jesse and Celine were on a train, and then they get off there. Well, he gets off the train, and then he talks to this guy who has a boat car, and
which I love the boat car. That's rules.
That was I believe Bill Wise is that person there, and Richard Linklater's in the back seat, and they're having a conversation. And then he gets out of the car while the waiter gets out of the car. He finds a sheet of paper saying, "Look to your right," and then he gets hit by a car, or he doesn't really get hit by a car because he wakes up. And so you're thinking that part's in a dream. And then he starts walking around having these like different conversations with people. One of them I want to play right now. This is from his scene with Kim Krazan, who helped write Before Sunrise. So I'll play this little clip here from that.
What is like frustration, or what is anger or love? When I say love, the sound comes out of my mouth and it hits the other person's ear, travels through this Byzantine conduit in their brain, through their memories of love or lack of love. And they register what I'm saying and they say, yes, they understand. But how do I know they understand? Because words are inert. They're just symbols. They're dead, And so much of our experience is intangible. So much of what we perceive cannot be expressed. It's unspeakable. And yet, when we communicate with one another and we feel that we have connected and we think that we're understood, I think we have a feeling of almost spiritual communion. And that feeling might be transient, but I think it's what we live for.
So I want to play that quick little clip, and I forgot to mention at the beginning of this discussion is about the animation style that it is done in, which is done in this like rotoscope animated style. I feel like each section that we talk about in this could be spanned to like an hour-long conversation there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I want to get back to your thoughts about, the whole animation style, which I think works for this style of storytelling. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, well, just a little backdrop or a little background on this first, because he later used this style in A Scanner Darkly in, I think, 2006, around there. And I saw that movie probably soon after it came out on home video. And I don't know. I think something about the rotoscope animation made me feel very uncomfortable. It's something sort of the way it's used there is very claustrophobic. I had kind of a visceral reaction to A Scanner Darkly a little bit in that way because of the animation style. I think with the benefit of time, I'm able to appreciate it here a lot more, which makes me want to go back and watch A Scanner Darkly actually now. But I think it is 100% key to the success of this movie. Like if this was in live action, this would not work. It would not feel as engaging. It would not feel as surreal. And then I found a quote that Richard Linklater said to IGN in 2012 talking about this film. And he said, I think to make a realistic film about an unreality, the film had to be a realistic unreality. And I think that he captures that here so much. Otherwise, if this had been in live action, it would have probably, I mean, the writing is outstanding for what it is trying to do, but it really is, as you were saying, just a series of philosophical conversations. I feel like in live action, without this sort of stylistic element to it, it kind of would have run the risk of feeling overly pretentious, indulgent, etc. Not that I necessarily would have felt that way, but I feel like this elevates what the arguments and the points that he's trying to make here. And being animation, you just kind of generally more accept what you're being shown. And it actually kind of parallels like a dream. Once you're in a dream, as the movie sort of points out, you don't, you accept insane things as reality. Oh, a boat car, of course. Yeah. And you don't, not until later that you're like, wait a minute, something was off about that. But because you're being presented with the animation, I think you're more likely to just be like, oh, okay, we're doing this, sure. So when crazy things happen, you kind of accept it as if you're having the dream with Wiley Wiggins' character.
And I think the very opening scene with the two kids, one of them being Richard Linklater's daughter, of them playing that little, like, I don't know the name of that game they play with the...
Yeah.
Kordakai. People out there tell me if I'm right or wrong about that. I'm not sure. And she has that line saying dreams is destiny. That puts you into the sort of like mindscape of this movie. And I think the animation style really helps with that because everything feels kind of like wavy and everything's not in place, just like a dream would be. And I think a lot of the conversations that happens, I find myself being more involved with it. And even if I'm not totally agreeing with everything that's being said, I find it to be just absolutely fascinating. I know that on the commentary, Richard Linklater wanted this to be like a kitchen sink movie where he took scenes that he cuts out of other films and wants to put it here instead. And I can definitely see that right now. Especially when it comes to the moment with Celine and Jesse from Before Sunrise and Sunset. And I always pictured this scene to happen right between Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. Because there's a moment on Before Sunrise when they're both on a train and they both sort of like fall asleep. And that's where the movie ends. And then that scene from Waiting Life is there. And I always figured this scene is a great sort of like bridge between Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. And I just want to play just a small clip of that, okay?
Right, so what are you saying? That reincarnation doesn't exist? Or that we're all young souls? Like half of us are first-round humans? I mean...
No. No, what I'm trying to say is that...
What's your point?
Somehow I believe reincarnation is just a poetic expression of what collective memory really is. There was this article by this biochemist that I read not long ago, and he was talking about how when a member of a species is born, it has 1 billion years of memory to draw on. And this is where we inherit our instincts.
I like that. It's like there's this whole telepathic thing going on that we're all a part of, whether we're conscious of it or not. I mean, that would explain why there's all these, seemingly spontaneous, worldwide, innovative leaps in science and the arts, like the same results popping up everywhere, independent of each other. Some guy on a computer, he figures something out, and then almost simultaneously, a bunch of other people all over the world figure out the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like the conversations that they have just felt natural, ingrained from before sunrise into like before sunset. And just folks, when I play those clips, I'm adding like pictures and images of the movie, so it's not gonna be just our handsome faces staring back at you. So
I'm just like listening to it being like, man, I need to rewatch those again because I just love hanging out with those characters. You mentioned how this movie works as sort of an extension, like kind of companion piece to Slacker. I because of the Jesse Celine connection and because it's so conversation based, I think it fits right along as sort of a thematic companion to the Before Trilogy as well.
Sure.
So many of their conversations in there about destiny versus fate. What do we base our identity on? A lot of existential crisis going on between Jesse and Celine. And here you get that, but with sort of a surreal kind of spin on it. And so I love that. And I love your idea that it sort of seated in between sunrise and sunset. I think it doesn't seem to me, I don't know if they were talking about possibly doing a sequel at this point, because this is 2001 and Before Sunset was a few years later. But I wonder if that was him kind of, maybe they did this and then it was like, hey, Ethan and Julie, maybe we should see where they're at now. And this is like sort of a fantasy version of where they could be. But I love the fact that we get to revisit them even briefly.
Yeah, because like during the making of this movie, Richard Linklater wanted to bring back in other characters and situations from other movies. That's why I brought in Wally Wiggins, who we know as being Mitch from Dazed and Confused, and have him be like the sort of like central character of this. But he is a central character, and at times he's not a central character, because there's a long stretch of the movie where you really don't see him there. And it just seems to be like a series of like conversations being held with other people. And I knew that in the Austin area, Richard just basically had a bunch of like philosophers and teachers and radio show hosts and everything. And everything in this movie is scripted, just like the Before series. Because when you're watching this for the first time, it almost, and I don't know if you had the same film that I did, Robert, but it feels like I'm watching a documentary. Like, he took these clips of like professors talking and just filmed it and animated over it. But every line of this is scripted. It's not just he put a camera, because there's that one scene where he's in a classroom and talking to that professor. It feels like he's just actually just videotaping the whole professor's dialogue. But no, that's actually written dialogue that he took from the professor's lecture on things. So,
and I have a journalism background. So watching this, I'm like, yeah, it does feel like this kid is just going around interviewing people. And it's like, all right, tell me your thoughts, and here's the subject, go. And then it's edited together. Obviously, of course, that's not the case. But I also love the Jesse and Celine scene, which enters 21 minutes in, they come into it. And it's right after, speaking of the kind of tonal shift of this movie, it's right after that guy sets himself on fire, pours gasoline on himself, and like protests by setting himself on fire in the middle of the street. That's when we transition through the window to Jesse and Celine. And then they end their sequence with a discussing how basically they think everybody's sort of, and they mentioned a little in that clip, I think, of sharing their knowledge collectively, and that we're all sort of occupying in a way the same dreamscape, which I think is such an interesting point that the movie then brings up later on, when the main character is like, I have these dreams and these people come up to me and they have these ideas. I didn't come up with that. Where is that coming from?
Yeah.
And bear in mind, my favorite movie is The Matrix. So all this dreams and reality and how time functions differently, and the nature of what's possible. And, that's why lucid dreaming has always been something that's really fascinating to me. So an hour and a half, like 100 minutes of this character's expounding on that was just so intellectually stimulating.
Yeah, did you find like any of the conversations to be like difficult to understand or like follow at all? Because there was a lot of like talks of
Oh yeah,
existentialism and when he's
there
talking
is.
to John Christensen in that one room, he starts talking about lucid dreaming and
Yes.
here's how you can test if there's lucid dreaming going on. when i
Yeah.
when I saw that for the first time, I'm like, holy crap, I've had lucid dreams before, but I did not know what it was called at the time,
Yeah.
and to have that be explained to me, I thought was really kind of a cool thing. And then there are other elements too, where one guy is talking about the neo-human element, and
Uh-huh.
forgot to write his name down, but it's you see him, he's older guy with the glasses and his head's waving everywhere. The whole thing about neo-human and evolution, and I'm like, okay, this is over my head right here.
Yeah, there were moments like that. I really resonated with the lucid dreaming thing, like you were talking about, because I remember being a kid and being in a dream and being like, "Whoa, I'm in a dream. This is weird." And if I wanted to get out of it, my trick that I used was always just like kind of closing my eyes really hard, and then I would open them and be awake. And that was kind of my exit strategy. Because he talks in here about like, you know, clocks, screens, small printed material, or the light switches. That I want to tell you, first of all, the fact that that guy is developing 360-degree vision in his lucid dreaming, respect.
Yeah.
Secondly, secondly, the fact that he has this whole conversation about lucid dreaming and then goes over and the light switch doesn't work. That was such a cool touch.
That was very cool.
Do we think any of this is reality? Because I kind of don't think. I kind of feel like it's just a perpetual dream state. It's like Inception level dream within a dream within a dream, and he's just so far deep in that. Is he ever get out again? I don't know. He floats up to the sky, and that's the last we get of it.
Yeah, and like all the moments too where you think he's waking up for real, and then he's
Mhm.
back to the same dream. Very cool. Gotta mention this real quickly though, that John Christensen, the first guy to tell him about the dream state, he died before he actually got to see the movie. And here's a guy that, you know, was into like lucid dreaming for a lot. He had like a small public access show. I know a lot of people that were in this auditioned to be in the movie. And you know, there's even I have to mention this right now.
Mhm.
There's a couple of moments in the story where things just like the tone changes a little bit. Like we mentioned the whole Jesse and Celine thing. I think right after that, there's like a guy yelling in jail saying that
Yeah.
you motherfuckers are keeping locked up here, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
just get you when I get out. And that pompous ass of a lawyer. All right.
Most of the movie, at least at that point, was very like intellectual, academic speak, and then this guy's like, "Oh, you cocksuckers," and I'm like, "Whoa, I didn't expect that to happen."
It's
Yeah.
that in that scene, he's actually reading a clip from the book The Room from Herbert Selby Jr., who wrote
Oh wow.
Requiem for a Dream and Last Exit to Brooklyn. So that is like a page of like quote from a book called The Room, which I imagine is about a guy who's stuck in jail. So that's all I know from that right
That's
there. Um, uh, and then we one other thing I do want to mention in this film is that this film does have an appearance from Alex Jones.
I realized that after the fact. I was like, "Wait a minute, what?
Yeah,
Which one was him? Which one was he?" And then I was like, "Oh, he was the guy in the car
he was the guy in the car
shouting out
so
the speaker."
for context reason here, this movie came out in 2001. All right. This is before Alex Jones was blaming victims of gun violence and everything like that. He was a libertarian and had a libertarian talk show, was more of like the, you know, that side of politics. And he had a radio show in Austin, Texas. And Richard Linklater had him on this. He also appears in A Scanner Darkly as well. And just a different persona back then. Still believed like
Mhm.
in gun rights and everything too, but not as a nut job. as he
still yelling, just yelling about different things in this movie.
And the weird thing too is that the stuff that he was talking about, I kind of agree with here. You know, the whole like liberal, conservative Democrat bullcrap. You know, get away from the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, but you went full MAGA, all right? You went like the full like bullshit wise of like conservatism and whatnot. So
they have the whole dialogue of his whole speech on IMDb quotes page, and towards the end he's like, we're gonna be human beings, we're gonna get fired up about the real things, the things that matter. I have to do it with the creativity and the dynamic human spirit that refuses to submit. And then he's like, well, that's it, that's all I've got to say.
It's in my court now.
It's in your court now. Yeah.
Like
it's a great monologue for sure.
But it's like just totally doesn't match what he's about there for sure. And then I want you to talk about, do you have any favorite moments of this? Because like I said before, this movie is like a collage of different moments that either Wally Wiggins is interacting with or is just observing, and it's all different thoughts of themes and thoughts. Like there's that one scene with the guy with the monkey talking as well. And I'll ask you this, Robert. Do you have a favorite moment of this that you want to mention?
The light switch thing that I already mentioned.
Okay.
I actually thought the Alex Jones scene was really good. The whole boat car guy, like the whole thing that he was saying, I thought was really interesting. I'm trying to see if I can find some of it here. He's like, I feel like my transport should be an extension of my personality. This is like my little window to the world, and every minute's a different show. I may not understand it. I may not even necessarily agree with it. That whole thing, I thought, and I feel like, and as I sort of alluded to earlier in this conversation, that was such a mission statement, like from Linklater, being like, this is going to be weird. Just ride it out with me. The conversation that he has with a girl later on, and when he realizes he's dreaming, and he asks her, what's it like to be a character in a dream? There's a few different ones.
Okay, speaking about that is a great little segue here, because I have to play that one.
Oh, great.
What my favorite quote in this entire movie is from this line here. And this is said by Tiana Hutz. All right, hold on.
Hey, could we do that again? I know we haven't met, but I don't want to be an ant, you know? I mean, it's like we go through life with our antennas bouncing off one another, continuously on ant autopilot, with nothing really human required of us. Stop, go, walk here, drive there. All action basically for survival, all communication simply to keep this ant colony buzzing along in an efficient, polite manner. Here's your change. Paper or plastic? Credit or debit? You want ketchup with that? I don't want a straw. I want real human moments. I want to see you. I want you to see me. I don't want to give that up. I don't want to be an ant, you know?
Yeah, no, I don't want to be an ant either. Yeah, thanks for kind of like jostling me there. I've been kind of on zombie autopilot lately. I don't feel like an ant in my head, but I guess I probably look like one. It's kind of like D.H. Lawrence had this idea of two people meeting on a road, and instead of just passing and glancing away, they decide to accept what he calls the confrontation between their souls. It's like freeing the brave, reckless gods within us all.
Then it's like we have met.
And it's in this moment, because later on they start talking about a soap opera that she wants to do, and that's when I have this realization that, hey, that's not my idea. That's coming from someone else's idea. And he starts to realize that I'm in a dream, and I have no idea how to get out of this dream. And I've never had like long types of conversations and dreams. When I lose a dream, Robert, I'm usually driving, which is odd because I have not driven in years, but I'm always said to be driving, and my dreams are always like outside. I've never had conversations really with anyone. I don't know if you had conversations in your dreams at all.
Not that I can remember in this sort of detailed way, certainly. That scene, is just you get to. I feel like you get to know that woman so well just from that one monologue. I know that they shot and edited the complete live action version of this before they did any of the animation. I would love to see the live action version of this, to see those actors' performances, because I think the level of not only writing but performance in this thing is just off the charts. That immediately you're like dropped into scene after scene with no context. It's another thing that the boat car guy mentions too. No beginnings, no endings, just like just right, just just in it. Yeah. He says, no, saves on introductions goodbye. The ride does not require explanation, just occupants. And so the fact that you're just dropped into it, like the listeners were just dropped into that scene, and I'm just like, wait, more of this. What that was too short. Play more, Vern.
And for me, that was like a moment. That was like my sort of like holy moment, and I want to talk about the holy moment scene.
Absolutely.
But that was sort of like my holy moment. Like, yeah, you know what? You're right. We do sort of like be on autopilot when we're going through our day-to-day activities, and we never actually get a chance to talk to anyone or find out more about them. And I found it to be just an eye-opening thing, and I try my best to not be an ant, and yet I still feel like an ant, even though I try my best not to feel like an ant. So there's elements of this movie that I like rewatching because it gets my brain going.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I try my best to communicate and be more open. And I love, Robert, very much that you made me think about this movie in a different way, especially with that boat scene and how Richard Linklater is in the back, and he's sort of like kind of directing the movie in the back, and we got Bill Wise telling us the story as he's telling Wiley Wiggins, and Wiley Wiggins is our audience avatar. We're kind of following things through his, mindscape and everything too, and I found it to be just absolutely just fascinating. And so when watching this film and listen to all these different people talk about different things, you tend to be kind of lost a little bit and not quite sure exactly where the plot's going. You're thinking, okay, well, he's waking up from a dream. Okay, he's going back into a dream. And now he's waking up again, but where is he for sure? Where's this movie going? And it's at this moment when we talk to Tiana Hutz's character. This is a real person. I keep remembering that these are actually real professors and teachers and artists and performers that Wiley Wiggins is talking to. It's actually Wiley Wiggins. Even though he's playing a character, they don't call him another character name. It's just he's known as Wiley. They don't give him a name. They don't give him a name because he's supposed to be like audience avatar. But it's at this moment where us as the audience starts to realize, like, oh, crap, he's trapped in a dream. He can't get out of this dream at all. And that's where sort of like the, I guess, story kicks in. I don't know. Do you think there was a story before this or after this? I'm curious, Robert.
Not really. I think you're just kind of you're on the ride with him, and I think it also, a lot of the things that people are talking about, a lot of even the academic references and the sort of worries about the future, the worries about like the path that you're going to take and what's the meaning behind it all. Like it all kind of jives with the kinds of anxiety that would be going on in the head of a young man in his early 20s as this character is. So I think it's really interesting to, again, going back to Before Sunrise, it kind of feeds off of some of that and takes it into a more surreal place. And I love that this movie, another thing I wanted to point out too, is that I love that this movie points out, like about halfway through, its own, and it calls it absurdist, its own absurdist nature. And it literally says like something from a strange movie or something. So I love that we get sort of a meta commentary. It's almost like him realizing, am I in a strange experimental film halfway through? And it kind of calls itself out, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. Does, especially since Richard Linklater in this, in his career, he's already had like a big hit with Dazed and Confused. And then I think he was making, because they made the Newton Boys, which is the big studio hit. It was not a hit. But after Dazed and Confused, he got more clout, and then he made a studio picture for 20th Century Fox because Dazed and Confused was Universal. So then 20th Century Fox hired him to do the Newton Boys. And after that, he didn't really make a movie until this. And I feel like Wait in Life is trying to get back into the whole like indie circuit of doing slacker, like a type of slacker style, but he didn't want to do the same type of movie, and so he just got a digital camera because in the early 2000s, digital cameras were very kind of, I wouldn't say easy to get, but you could shoot easily with a digital camera because as long as the actors' faces were lit up well, it would be easier for the animators to draw over it. And I think that he just wanted to get back into his love of filmmaking again with this, by shooting it kind of the same way he did Slacker, by having a bunch of like local people in Austin, Texas, do their thing. And I think because of this, he shot that movie Tape. Have you seen Tape with Ethan Hawke? And
I haven't. No, I have to.
Uma Thurman?
I have to go down a Linklater rabbit hole. I think after this, after the Before Trilogy and this, and kind of fill in some blank spots.
Oh, totally. I like the fact too that he just does like little independent features and then does like his blockbuster styles with like School of Rock.
School of Rock and then Before Sunset, two wildly different movies.
Yeah.
Back to back. Yeah.
100%.
And I love what you were saying about this kind of being him getting back into this kind of filmmaking, because even this movie, in the whole holy moment conversation, taps into film and how it comments on reality, and then what film is capturing is God incarnate creating, and how film holds us and be like, see, this moment is holy, and how that doesn't translate to reality. And what you were saying about the conversation where the young woman's talking about not wanting to be an aunt, that scene kind of also thematically ties into that, because the two men are staring at each other, being fully present in the moment. And then the one character is saying, if I can't do that too long, because then I'll start crying. I'm like, why would you cry? Why wouldn't you laugh? And it's like, because then I'll make you uncomfortable. And it's like it's impolite. Like we've created a society where being real, being genuine, being authentic with each other is rude somehow. And I feel like Linklater's calling that out. Like in movies, we can have these conversations. We can be open and authentic. We can, be intimate. But in real life, everybody is like, oh, paper or plastic, debit or credit.
Yeah.
You want ketchup with that. And so I think that's the way that these scenes, even when they're not directly, directly following each other, they thematically all weave together in a really fascinating way.
They do. And that's a good segue. You are a master at this. That is a great segue to play another clip from Wait in Life. This is the Holy Moment clip.
But like Truffaut always said that, the best films aren't made, the best scripts don't make the best films, because they have that kind of literary, narrative thing, that you're sort of a slave to. The best films, are the ones that aren't like tied to that slavishly. So I don't know, the whole narrative thing, it just seems to me like, obviously there's a narrativity to cinema because it's in time, just the way there's narrativity to music. But, you don't first think of the story of the song and then make the song, it has to come out of that moment, and that's what film has. It's just that moment, which is holy, and like this moment, it's holy. But like we walk around like it's not holy. We walk around like, there are some holy moments and there are all the other moments that are not holy, right? But like this moment's holy, right? And I feel like film can let us see that, can frame it so that we see like, this moment, holy. And it's like holy, 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 moment by moment. But like, who can live that way, Who can like go, wow, holy? Because if I were to like look at you and just really like let you be holy, I don't know, I would like stop talking.
Well, you'd be in the moment. I mean,
yeah, but
the moment is holy. Right?
Yeah, but I'd be open, and then I'd like look in your eyes, and I'd cry, and I'd like feel all this stuff, and that's like not polite. I mean, it would make you uncomfortable.
Well, you could laugh too, though. I mean, why would you cry?
Well, because I don't know. For me, like I just tend to cry.
Well,
let's do it right now. Like let's have a holy moment.
Okay.
So in the context of this scene, Wally Wayton is in a movie theater watching these two gentlemen on the screen, and they are Kavi Samadhi. I'm messing up that name. I apologize immensely. He's a guy I talked about the Holy Moment. And then the other guy to the left of him is David Jewell. David Jewell is a poet, and for Before Sunrise fans, he is the guy who originally wrote the poem about milkshakes that is read
nice.
to the Celine and Jesse. He's the original
The
writer
street
of that poem.
poet in Before Sunrise. Yeah.
So, and that is another story. Like, wow, and he's right about how scripts, if they're attached to a star, it becomes less about the storyline in a way. And I think that's what Linklater wanted to do with this film, is to have a story that's not built on star power and not even much director powers too, because Richard Linklater at this time only had one really big hit movie with Dazed and Confused that is only like clout to fame and stardom, and then having a movie where the only star of this is Wally Wiggins from Dazed and Confused. He didn't pick like a Ben Affleck or Joy Lord Adams or Parker Posey to be in this. He just but I just want your takes on that moment, the whole use of like narrative being used or not used and that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal of this movie is just to get you thinking, to get you engaged with the conversation, not so much with the not even so much with the characters. That's why we don't, the Wiley Wiggins character doesn't really get much agency until towards the end, which it's just really kind of building up to that final shot of like, oh, he's still dreaming. Like it's like just leaves you questioning the nature of reality. And I think even Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy being in this movie and the whole Before Sunrise connection, those movies are beloved and they're classics now. But like at the time, those were like critical darlings that came out and like did fine because they were super cheap to make. None of those movies, I mean, Before Midnight, I think made like 13 million, and that was the highest grossing of the three.
Really?
So it's not like they were blockbusters or something. Ethan Hawke was probably the best known person in this movie, but that's not to say that he, again, like you were saying, it's not like he was a marquee star. He was a Linklater sort of repertory player. And I think including Jesse and Celine, and again, they're not credited as. I don't think they're credited as such in the movie, are they? It doesn't say any characters' names.
I don't think they're credited as Jesse and Celine, but you know them as being those characters.
Exactly.
Especially now, but in 2001, this was made before Sunset, so the whole idea of it being a trilogy was not there yet.
Exactly.
But I agree that after they did shot the scene, I'm sure Linklater's like, Julie, Ethan, come over here. I got this idea. Maybe you want to see your characters a few years later. And then they started, spitballing the idea about making it into another movie.
And thank goodness they did, because now we have the Before Trilogy.
100% grateful for that. I'm grateful that Linklater brought back Adam Goldberg and Nicky Katt from Dazed and Confused to do a scene together. Because in Dazed and Confused, they were enemies, even though they're friends in real life. They were enemies in the movie, and then he has them in one scene where they're like all walking together with these other guys, and they had a hard time shooting that scene because everything is scripted, and they came down for a short while, so they didn't have time to really like rehearse it to make it natural. That's why a lot of pieces of dialogue feels like stilted, and it's even like, I think it's mixed in with like footage from a kid who's autistic, and I forget his name, Ryan something. But that actor, which I forget his full name, Ryan, the animators Bob Sebastian did a test with the whole rotoscope animation style, a test thing called Snack and Drink, where they wanted to test the whole like rotoscope animation. And I remember seeing that animation style short in like a few MTV installations between like shows and music videos.
It's very Take On Me in places.
Very much so. And here's a weird thing too, like on the DVD, there are like 2 audio commentaries, one featuring Richard Linklater and Wally Wiggins and Bob Sebastian, the supervisor animator. And then there's another commentary track that talks to every single animator, because each scene is drawn by a different animator and artist. And these are not people really kind of known for animation, they're known more for their artwork. And when you watch different scenes of this, you see, at least I don't know if you did, but there's like a different style to each stuff that happens there, and I think that's absolutely great. We did that one scene of Tiana Hutz talked about the soap opera, and the way her hair is done in that sort of like black background was very cool. The scene with Jesse and Celine kind of reminds me of like a watercolor. I don't know who to describe the painter, but it feels painted. Some images feel more abstract than the others.
I love sometimes there's exaggerated features, like people's eyes sort of expand, or their teeth or their hair or their fingers, kind of the length goes, or they're describing something and we sort of see it like in the background or whatever, like they're telling a story and we sort of see it visualized. Yeah, all of those animated like flourishes I thought were really interesting. And how many movies can get outside of, going back to the Matrix, outside of something like the Animatrix, or like some kind of an animated anthology, how many movies can get away with having different animation styles and have it not be jarring, but actually kind of fuel the experience that the audience is supposed to be having? That's incredible.
Yeah. And the whole movie feels like a pop art, like it feels like an art gallery that came to life. This is not traditional animation. Even the whole rotoscope thing, because we talked about A Standard Darkly, and A Standard Darkly, everything seems to be like one style, and I feel like the animation in that one is a little bit more fluid. This is the first time they were trying out the software, so things feel out of place in some scenes, but I think it just adds to it. And I think the score, I like Jill Glover, there's like Toscada, Tango Group, that Tango store that happens just adds to the whole. Whoever thought to add like this like Tango Group to be a store and actually work so well with the accordion? Just works so well in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, the only other I've got one other clip to play. This is from Professor Louis Mackey, who is a philosophy professor in Austin, Texas, and I think he probably has one of the best quotes of the movie that I want to play right now.
Why is world history and evolution not stories of progress, but rather this endless and futile addition of zeros? No greater values have developed. Hell, the Greeks 3,000 years ago were just as advanced as we are. So what are these barriers that keep people from reaching anywhere near their real potential? The answer to that can be found in another question, and that's this. Which is the most universal human characteristic? Fear or laziness?
And that quote kind of hits me, especially, with being a creator, and, I try to do like my own art as well. Like, what stopped me reaching my full potential? And a lot of it has to deal with laziness as well, and like fear and type of thing. And
it's a toss up every day. Is it fear, or am I afraid of success or failure or both?
Yeah.
Or am I feeling lazy? And it's like, yeah, it's usually a kind of a coin flip.
Oh, so I wasn't quite sure. Did you enjoy this?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those movies that if you're watching for a story, you will get frustrated. At a certain point, you just have to be like, oh, we're just talking about cool shit and like, doing it in a really fun, interesting, cinematic style. And once you just kind of embrace just the conversation, the ideas, being discussed, I think then you could sort of vibe with it. But again, like if you're watching it like a conventional narrative, you're gonna like, you're going to be looking at the clock. How much more of this? Because nothing's happening. Like this is the kind of movie that either you're gonna see it and you're gonna be a creative minded person and you're gonna, engage with it intellectually like we did, or if you're a casual moviegoer, you're gonna be like, I don't know, nothing happened. They were just like, there's just people sitting around talking. And then meanwhile, you and I are like, yeah, but listen to what they were talking about and how cool that is. And having doesn't that shape your perspective on things, on life, on, there's so many interesting ideas in here as far as, if you have a dream and how time shifts inside the dream that you can, and this is something that again Christopher Nolan would get back into in Inception.
Yes.
You can like live lifetimes in a dream. You can dream, do an entire day's work, and then wake up and be like, oh crap, I have to go to work.
Yep.
That was just a dream, and you don't realize until it's over. And how that not only the malleability of time, but how that then shapes your waking life, which by the way, Jesse and Celine are the ones that say that phrase. So I'm like, they get to name the movie, which I was like, go them. How that shapes your perspective on your waking life. Like, is it now, are you now more melancholy in your waking life because you feel like in some ways you have more control in your dreams? And that's where I think the whole lucid dreaming idea goes into play. I also wanted to point out that I thought was cool, the Richard Linklater character, and I love that he is sort of the button at the end of this
That's true. He's at the start and at the end of this, yeah.
He mentions a Philip K. Dick essay. Of course, Philip K. Dick's story was the basis for A Scanner Darkly. So it almost feels like Linklater kind of calling his shot, and like, if this goes well and we have a good experience, maybe we'll circle back and use this technology to delve into one of his stories, because Philip K. Dick deals in a lot of these kinds of ideas as well, which I find really fascinating.
And it's interesting too. You said that about Philip K. Dick, because the last clip I played from Louis Mackey has everything that Philip K. Dick ever wrote. And so when Richard Linklater was going to his house and saw all the books, he's thinking, oh, hey, Stare Darkly, here's an idea. So it's interesting how people can talk to other people and get ideas for other movies and piece of artwork that they haven't done yet. When I first saw this movie, I saw it in theaters, and I brought a girl that I was dating at the time to the movie with a few of her friends. And all I said, hey, it's a new movie from the guy who made Dazed and Confused. It's all done animation style. I have no idea what it's about. I think I was able to show a clip of on YouTube. I think 2001. There's still YouTube going on there, but not as big as it is. And
right.
They were like, "All right, we'll go see it." And I think afterwards, a lot of them, even the girl I was dating at the time, were kind of confused by it. But she's an artist, so she really gravitated the whole animation style of it. And
nice.
She said, I liked certain things that were being said, but a lot of it I was confused by. And I'm thinking that is okay, because when watching this, it's like listening to a record and maybe finding a few songs that you like. Like, I like the Holy Moment scene. I like the scene talking about ants. The Jesse and Celine scene was great, and so there's all these different moments in the movie that you can gratify towards, and there's other moments that are like, I don't know about this, don't really like this, and maybe that's the whole wave of humanity in our life, where there's certain things we like about our life and there's certain things we don't like, and just pick and choose. But even stuff that we don't like is still kind of fascinating as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, as much as it fits with Slacker, it definitely fits into the Before Trilogy, Boyhood sort of meditations on time kind of thing. And I think because of that, the more you rewatch it at different points in your life, the more you'll gravitate towards certain ideas or relate to certain characters more than others. And it's, this is a film called Waking Life. It just as well could have been a book of essays, meditations on lucid dreaming or whatever. Like that's basically what it is, but it's an experimental film in that regard. And I think that, your mileage may vary. It's very much one of those movies that if someone loves it, great. If someone doesn't love it, I get it. It's not for you. That's not what you're looking for. You want to turn your brain off kind of cinema, go see a Minecraft movie.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Bringing our conversation full circle.
That's true.
This is not your jam, and that's totally fine. I got a lot out of it, and I feel like it's one that I would want to revisit down the line. I was also a little annoyed that it's not actively streaming anywhere.
It's not.
Like I rented it on Apple. But I was like, okay, my local used DVD store, anything, nothing. Any of the streamings, it's a Fox movie. Why isn't this? Put this on Disney Plus, you cowards!
I know, right? It should be on there, 100%. If you do, I imagine finding the DVD for really cheap at like my local half price books, which is very nice. There's even a text commentary that goes into detail about all the lessons from philosophers and things you can research more, but you have to pause the movie when those texts come up there because they show up and then they're gone right away. I'm like, holy crap. And it's like a large text that almost covers half the screen. So you have be there with a pause button, trying to read everything. Right now, next frame comes up. All right, pause it right there. Okay, so it's a little bit frustrating when you're watching the text commentary, but still overly cool. I will say this though, I think him making this movie and either Before Sunrise and Sunset, everything he does has led to his latest feature, Nouvelle Vague, about the creation of Breathless, which I'm very excited about because Breathless is one of my favorite movies from the French New Wave and Godard, and I think that everything that Linklater has made has led to that feature, which is about the making of a movie, and I'm glad that he's doing it. I'm upset that Netflix brought the rights to it, which means I will not get a theatrical release of it, which that's another rage corner for me to.
I was gonna say that would have been a great one for us to unite on.
Because he did it for The Hitman, and I liked The Hitman. I know a lot of people did like that movie, but I thought it to be fun. But I wish I would have seen that with an audience. That would have been a good one to watch with a crowd of people. That was definitely more of his blockbuster side, and now he's doing his art school side right there. So it'd be fascinating to see what happens with that.
I'm realizing now, because we're talking about how the movie is essentially out of print on physical media, that the Before Trilogy, Boyhood, Dazed and Confused, and Slacker are all in the Criterion Collection. Yes. This would be a great addition. Anybody from the Criterion Collection who's listening, this is the kind of wild swing of a movie that should be in the Criterion Collection, especially with those collection of movies that we just mentioned, that I just said, that are already in there. Like, this belongs in that company. They're all thematically and even with the cast sort of intertwined. So it feels like that's something that probably should happen.
And give it a whole new 4K transfer.
Exactly.
That there too. Well, before we do leave our conversation about Waking Life, what score would you give this one? Let's go ahead and rate this. How should we rate this movie here? Let's go ahead and rate this out of wavy alarm clocks. Out of 5 wavy alarm clocks, what would you rate this?
I'd probably this is probably a 4 wavy alarm clocks. Let's start there. But again, because this is my first watch, had I rewatched this multiple times, it might have been 4.5 wavy alarm clocks, because I think it has so much richness that it's not one that you really absorb until probably I suspect the second or third viewing, because that was my experience with the Before Trilogy as well.
Oh, sure.
First time I was like, okay, that was cool. But then now I'm like, are these the best movies ever made?
Yeah,
are they're up there? They're definitely among the best that I've covered on French's Detours.
Oh,
so
Before series is the best. It's the perfect trilogy. It's they're seriously, the Toy Story
there's
trilogy,
no rise and fall. It's just straight line
it's
of
a
awesome.
perfect trilogy.
Yeah.
All right. I I probably would put like maybe like the good, the bad, the ugly, Fistful of Dollars,
Yeah, sure.
$3 More be another sort of good trilogy. Back to the Future being another one. Toy Story would have been a great trilogy if it ended on 3.
Right.
But it did not do that. It continued
No,
on.
they have 5 coming out next year.
God damn it. Sir, I'm raging now. That's for another episode. I'm not going to rage right now.
Yeah, save these. Save a rage catalog.
Save the corner there for rage stuff later on. I'm hope Richard Linklater, I do not want a 4th Before Sunrise.
Yeah.
Do not do that. Please.
I asked every guest on my 3 episodes about that, on that question, and we were all kind of like, if they did it, I'm sure it would be amazing, but also let's not. Like, it's perfect. Anything they do at this point would just be sort of repetitive. You'd be thematically sort of spinning your wheels. I think you said everything you need to say about the stages of a relationship in those 3 movies, so it's not really necessary.
I would take another 15 minutes of them talking in animated form.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do like a series of like shorts on the internet with them.
Yeah, there you go.
In animated form. I am given, because I have seen this a few times, I am given Weight in Life 4.5. I find myself finding more things about it that I didn't realize before. And for me, it's always just been one of those like comfort films that I put on to make myself, be appreciative of humanity again. I kind of do the same thing too when I watch Everything Everywhere All at Once when I'm feeling discouraged by humanity. I put it on to make myself be, oh wait, humanity. All right, we're good. We're gonna get through some stuff. We actually are good. And this movie makes me also believe that human beings are intelligent and we have a lot to say about each other there. So yeah.
We're not just ants.
We're not just ants.
God damn it.
Exactly. That's a quick mistake right there, Robert. Thank you. Before we go, I want you just to tell listeners all about where we can find you. If you have any upcoming franchises that you're talking about, you just finished up talking about Before Midnight. Please go back and listen to his episode on Before Sunset and Before Sunrise. What I like the best about your shows is that you get into some, details without spoiling anything. You don't go like to a scene by scene deconstruction about the movie, so that people can watch it and learn to appreciate it. It doesn't matter if you've seen the film at all or if you've only seen it once or so.
My approach on podcasts in general, as particularly with Franchise Detours, is I feel like, first of all, if you're listening to an episode about a movie, you've either seen the movie or you want to hear people talk about the movie. Yeah. I've never understood podcasts that spend the majority of their running time being like, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. Like, I want to hear a conversation, like, put me in the room with you're having a drink after you've seen the film. Like, what was the impact? What did it do well? What was what did it contribute to the franchise, et cetera, et cetera? Where are these characters now? All of that stuff. So that's kind of my thing with that. So I appreciate you saying that. So Close Watch with Robert Yaniz Jr. As I said, we get to know our guests through the movies they love later this fall, inspired by Wicked and everything. We're doing a curated list of Oz movies, The Wizard of Oz on through Wicked for Good. And then on Franchise Detours, as you said, we did the Before Trilogy. We have the 100th episode going live after that. And then the Superman mega series. So the 4 Reeves, Supergirl returns, leading into, James Gunn's Superman movie this summer. And then I also co-host Back to Bluey with Nostalgia Cast co-host Darren Lundberg. So if you want to hear me talk about the Australian animated series Bluey, you can find all 3 of those shows, Back to Bluey, Franchise Detours, Close Watch, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I'm on all the social, well, I'm not on Twitter, but I'm on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at Crooked Table.
Very nice. Well, it's a big honor to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Our last episode we did was on the Paddington trilogy, and I hope you check that out with Amy from In Session Film and Caitlin from the Bechtel cast. I don't have anything planned for other episodes, but I know more stuff is going to be coming down the way. I just don't have is that I'm thinking of doing either a series about Jean-Luc Godard films, but now I'm also thinking about doing a series of Richard Linklater films too, because he had a whole wide of different films for a different director series. I'm not quite sure yet. I know that when this episode posts, I will be at Convergence with Ashley and Taylor and a few of our friends from our movie club episodes that we've had done before. So we're going to be at Convergence. I'm going to be moderating some panels. I'm hoping to record episodes we've done for Convergence. If you want to find episodes early before anyone else, become a Patreon member. Patreon.com/Cinema Recall Pod. And I want to give a shout out and thank you to all of our amazing Patreon supporters. In no special order, we have Jeanette Miller. She's found on Twitter and Threads at AKA Jeanette. Jen McQuaid from Shocked and Applaud. They haven't made episodes in a while, but come back. I love you very much. Jason Soto from Rabbit Hole Podcast. I know I'm going to be on an upcoming episode of Jason Soto's 90s podcast, That's the Bombio, talking about the film Twister. So that'd be fun. That should be coming out in August. And I want to thank Christian Hurst. He is an author of the book Lily Starlin and the Voyage of the Salamander. We had an interview with him a few weeks ago. Check that out. That's on YouTube and other platforms there. Thank you, Christian, for being the Patreon supporter. Steve W. Steve, you don't have a website or you're not really on social, but I thank you very much for your donations. Matt and Ashley from Mashley at the Movies. Thank you very much for your support, gentlemen. Donnie Roberts, who's found over at Cage's Kiss, and I'm found at Still Just Me on Twitter and Threads. Linda Castro from Bed Knobs and Broomflits. And I should mention that the episode that we did with him and Todd Liebenauer and Cam Sully. Todd Liebenauer for Forgotten Films, Cam Sully of Jet Reviews on Ensemble Films. Go check that out. Donnie will be coming back for some more episodes once we get our schedules worked out and all that good stuff there. But yeah, I think there's going to be one more episode coming out soon with Robbie Sherman, of Conversation with Robbie Sherman, talking about our favorite deserted flicks. So just go to Cinema Recall. We got a bunch of stuff there for everyone. Find us on all your favorite social media platforms and all that good stuff. I am the Vern. My guest here was Robert Yaniz Jr. from Cricket Table Productions. And I thank you all very much. Try to do this real quickly here. Oh yeah, I gotta play this now. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. All right. There's everyone. Toodles.